Good evening to all of you from the NorthCap University and welcome to School of Law MasterClass, a series of talks aiming to bring the real world into the classroom. Over the past 25 years, the NorthCap University has been a natural meeting ground of talented students and faculty. Our graduates from engineering, law, and management disciplines are welcomed in leading global companies and top universities abroad. The reason we are a top university is simple. At NCU, all education is contemporary and focused on the future. We take great pains to offer education that will be relevant today and in time to come. The same intent also drives our recent collaboration with the Arizona State University, the leading American university. Our partnership is exclusively the first of its kind in India in terms of coverage, breadth, and depth. It covers all programs across the three schools that we have: engineering, management, and law. And all of this is designed to give you a degree that will be your asset in your working lives. Dear students, modern society cannot exist without a strong foundation of justice and fairness. Without justice, there are no guarantees for your freedoms or your security. Just look at India's Western neighbors. Who would want to immigrate and live there? In his influential work, A Theory of Justice, John Rawls tells us that the justice and fairness have a strong moral imperative and establishes the basis for procedural justice as opposed to distributive justice. Many speakers in this masterclass series have warned about how machine algorithms from big technology firms are strangling our privacy, reducing us to mere manipulated objects, and how unchecked their power is over all of us. On the other hand, the rise of fake news and manufactured narratives are threatening the fabric of our civil society, as we saw during the Delhi riots 2020. Is jurisprudence the answer? What are the remedies? More importantly, do these trends point to new opportunities for the legal profession? Our guest today wants to share her perspective on this. Let me introduce her. Honorable Justice Prathiba Maninder Singh is the Justice of the Delhi High Court. Prior to her appointment as judge, she has made significant contributions to academic literature and legal developments in Indian intellectual property law as a practicing lawyer and as an advisor to several legislative committees concerned with drafting the related laws. In 2013, she established the Prathiba Singh Scholarship for the LLM candidates at the University of Cambridge to provide financial support to Indian students studying for masters in law. Justice Singh studied law at the National Law College, Bangalore, Karnataka, and obtained LLM from the University of Cambridge on a Cambridge Commonwealth Trust scholarship. Today, she will speak to you on the topic careers in law. As always, you can write your questions and responses in the chat. Justice Singh, good evening and welcome to the NorthCap University.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Professor Milind Padalkar.
The stage is yours, ma'am.
Yes, thank you very much. A very warm good evening to everyone, and thank you for having me at the NorthCap University. I specifically thank Senior Advocate Akshay Makhija for having invited me, and I wasn't aware of the university, and I've read about it after I was invited, and it is indeed my pleasure to be here and to meet all of you today, though in a virtual manner, because this is the only way we've all been meeting during the pandemic. And while this is better than not meeting at all, the best meeting would be in physical campus, I'm sure. And thank you for calling me and for having me over at the university. I've been informed that today's session is open for all the students in the university, but the primary focus would be on students who are pursuing their law, especially the first year students. I think you've entered the beginning of a law course during a pandemic, and so it is going to be very different for you the manner in which you're going to be studying and the manner in which the courses are going to be taught to you, and the lack of maybe complete campus atmosphere, feeling, and experiences. But be that as it may, the first and the foremost question that may come into everyone's mind as you've joined law is, why did I join law? Is it worth it? So let me give you a perspective as to why I think that law is absolutely essential for people from any profession. Studying law is extremely essential because I think that as Professor Padalkar said to you in his introductory remarks, it is law and the rule of law that binds society in general. Whether you're an engineer, a doctor, a chartered accountant, a sociologist, a lawyer, a teacher, any other person working in government, administration, or even, for example, a housemaker, a knowledge of law is going to be a very big enabler for all of you, because I think that no profession can be pursued effectively without the knowledge of law. No administration would be effective without the knowledge of law. That's the reason why you will see that almost all persons in government who are some of the topmost administrators have done their law and they've studied the subject of law. So whether it is for the purpose of following a career, whether it is in simply as a pastime, whether it is to, as a support degree for your existing degree, a degree in law will never do you any bad, and it is going to be a very big asset in your life. And so you've made the right choice, is what I can say. And the study in law is going to be a very interesting and also a very in-depth approach of how society itself is regulated. The confidence that a person gets in real life is increased manifold if you're a law graduate, because you know that you can never be on the wrong and you know the difference between right and wrong. So having said that, let us now look at some dimensions of law and what you can do. Now that you're already in a law college and you've already enrolled in law school, what is it that you're looking for during your 5 years? During the 5 years of law, I must take you all back to a state. I don't know if this law course is 5 years course. I guess it is. And whether it's a 3-year course or a 5-year course, the most important thing is, as a lawyer, the study of law as a theoretical subject itself. The study of law actually takes you back to the situation or position as to what made us human beings in a society. It is law that binds human beings in a society and keeps us in a particular way in which we behave. Without law, none of us would behave the manner in which we would. Why would you take out your car and drive on the left? Because there's a law which says you must drive on the left. Why is it that people don't go around committing crimes? Because there is a law which says you will be punished if you commit crimes. Why is it that in a social setup you behave in a particular manner? You do not abuse people. You speak decent words. You study. You behave in a particular way. All this is because there is some law which governs you in some way, and therefore law binds each of us in our social and cultural interactions. Whether it is within family, without family, neighbors, larger part of society, in whatever manner. It is law which binds all of us and the way we behave. So what is it that you can do by studying law? The possibility of what you can do by studying law is based on several factors. It could be on your own personal interest, whether you like a particular field of law, what is the motivation with which you are studying law. Some people may want to do academics, some people may want to study law for the interest of law, some people may want to practice in court, some people may want to do corporate law. There could be various reasons why you are studying law. And, sometimes I've actually interviewed candidates during scholarship, and they have, decided to do law because of their own personal experiences within family. For example, I remember one student telling me that one of her parents suffered a lot for non-availability of medicines, and therefore she decided to pursue patent law. Another person told me that the someone in the family had suffered due to medical negligence, and therefore he or she decided to pursue law. So there may be various factors which may have motivated you to join law. Please keep that factor in mind while studying law, but please don't be bound by it. Please be flexible. Keep your mind and heart open. There may be something more that you may be wanting to achieve, and the motivational factor may have brought you into law, but it need not be the bottom line for you to do law. While you are studying law, the motivations may change, the experiences may change, the interests may change, and it's perfectly all right to change your motivations while you studied law. Sometimes people have studied law maybe from the big national law universities or other universities with an intention to make sure that we have some kind of job security because of financial conditions of the family. Others may say, no, my family is quite settled. They're willing to support me for the next 2-3 years, even after I do law. So I have the option of taking risk. I can do litigation. I would be surprised. You will be surprised to know that when we joined law, for example, in the late 80s or in the early 90s, law was not the priority course. I myself wanted to do medicine, and for various personal and other reasons, I couldn't pursue medicine, and then I decided to do law. Whereas after the turn of the century in 2000, law has become such a sought after course and sought after profession that I have known students who have given up seats in AFMC Pune, in IITs, to be able to pursue law. So today, law is one of the most sought after courses in India. And the reasons for that are not far to seek, because, when India has had the economic development and liberalization of the economy, the need for legal professionals has increased a lot. There are more and more lawyers required in various facets of society, and therefore doing law is seen as quite an in thing now. So if you're doing law, you'll find within your friends, family, social circles, people will reach out to you with small problems, with small issues. So you should, as part of your legal education, be able to support society in general and your own social circle and relatives, family members in particular. So doing law is empowering you and giving you more importance within your own family and social circle. So therefore, I do think that the motivation to do law could be any factor, but you've chosen wisely and you haven't chosen wrongly, is what I can say. Now, what is it that you can do during your time as a law student? The law course, whether it's 3 or 5 years, is a long period. You are taught your various subjects by your teachers in the university. Firstly, I do believe that the interaction between the faculty and the students has to be very, very active and robust. Because if you don't do that, the practical aspects of law one can never understand. In order to understand the practical aspects of law, it is important to do case law based learning. So even if a particular section or particular provision of law or a subject has been taught to you, as you go by in your law courses, even amongst your friends, you should know what are the main judgments in a particular subject. Those judgments you should read up on your own. If you have a case mat system like I know DU has case mat system, you should try and study those judgments. And amongst yourselves, you should form small groups and discuss these judgments amongst yourselves. Because in law, there is nothing that is right or wrong. A lot of it is in the gray area, and one person may have one opinion about a judgment, and another person may have a different opinion. Whether it's constitutional law, law of evidence, whether it's CPC, criminal law, any law, please read the leading judgments on that particular provision when the provision is taught to you in the course. It's only then that you will be able to understand the practical aspect of how the law is applied. The second thing I would say is, irrespective of the subject that you're studying, you should know how to analyze the basic statute of any subject. Let us say it is the probate. It's a probate case. It's a transfer of property case. Let's say it's specific performance. If you pull out the particular Bail Act, it's important for you to understand what are the statutes behind each and every law and what is the structure of that statute. When you open the index of a statute, you will see that the statute has a particular structure. The minute you start understanding how acts are structured, half the job is done. Any new statute will not be a challenge to you. You will be able to analyze the statute very nicely. Every statute, as I keep telling my law researchers and interns, is like a story. Every act is like a story. It will give you in the statement of objects and reasons, the reason why the act is being enacted. The sections will form a pattern, and when you read it in a pattern, it will give you the story. For example, if you take the Transfer of Property Act or the Specific Performance Act or the Contract Act. Let's take the Contract Act, for example. What is a contract? What are the elements of a contract? What are the manners in which contract can be breached? How can a contract be enforced? What are the remedies that are available when a contract is breached? How are remedies granted? How are damages granted? That's the structure of the Contract Act. So if you open the Act itself, the Bail Act itself, section-wise, if you read it amongst yourselves or with your teachers, you will realize that there's a proper structure and there's a proper story in every statute. The minute you understand every statute like a story, then you will never forget it and you will never face a challenge in interpreting a statute. So the manner of studying has to be through the sections, through the structure of the statute and the leading case law on that particular statute. Now, what should I do? What should be my focus when I'm a law student? So I can give you an example. Your internships which you do during your law courses are expected to be enablers to enable you to decide what should be your thinking and what is the area of law in which you wish to work. For example, I remember when I studied law in University Law College, Bangalore, in my third year of law, I went and did an internship with a lawyer who was working in the family courts. And in those family courts, there were a large number of custody matters, maintenance matters, divorce matters, etc., which were being heard. And I recall very clearly that in one case, there was this 10 to 12-year-old boy who was in the witness box, who was being asked by the judge as to whether he wishes to, be with his mother or his father. And prior to him being called into the court witness box, he was sitting in the last bench of the courtroom and reading Hardy Boy's novel. And I felt so bad when I saw that little child that, and the manner in which he was questioned in the court, that I felt that, I won't be able to ever do family law because I won't be able to, it may have an effect on the manner in which I may, think about family in general. So that one day, my experience led me to decide I don't want to practice family law. So these kind of experiences make you think about what you want to do and what you want to be in life. So use your internships to be able to get the maximum exposure to different areas of law and different, career options as well. Go work in a corporate law firm, work in an administrative body, work in a policy-making body, an academic institution. So you will know what is it that I want to do in my life, and that will help you to decide. So these 4 to 5 years you can use very effectively doing internships, meeting people, and understanding as to what is the manner in which you want to pursue your career in law. The other factor that could affect how you proceed with your legal career is your own, nature. Some people are very introverted, some people are extroverted, some people have a strength in writing, some people have better speaking skills. So these you will identify as you interact with your peer group, with your teachers, with your family members, with your colleagues, etc. in the college. So that will make you understand as to whether I want to go to court. Somebody who thinks that I can draft better and I don't want to appear before a court can choose a particular path of career. Another person who thinks I'm good at debating, I'm good at public speaking, can decide that, no, I think I can do this. I want to be a court going lawyer. So your own interest, you will understand and identify, which will enable you to decide as to what kind of lawyer you want to be. And you may want to pursue your master's or do a PhD and be an academician. Even then, you will be able to understand as to what is the subject you want to study in. Nowadays, the practice of law has become extremely, niche, and it is very focused. So there can be PhD courses which are, for example, in cybercrime separately. Within cybercrime, there could be different kinds of PhDs that you will be able to do. You can do PhDs in, for example, intermediary liability. You can do PhD in the law of privacy. You can do PhD in, for example, within patent law, specific branch of patent law. So there are different niche areas within niche areas which you can choose before during your law course, before you reach your LLM or your PhD stage. And considering that, I was just speaking to your professor and asking as to what are the other faculties that the university is offering. You are offering engineering and management courses. So according to me, the study of law also ought to be interdisciplinary, because in law now, there is a great requirement, which I will be speaking of in a few minutes, of lawyers who have basic foundation in different areas of expertise. For example, it could be physics, it could be chemistry, it could be biology, it could be engineering, it could be economics, it could be business, it could be marketing, human resources. So these people, along with law, are now a required breed of professionals who are really, really sought after. So therefore, I think in your university, the interdisciplinary studying and interdisciplinary interaction is absolutely essential and important. It will make you open up your vision, and how those courses have a great bearing on legal aspects. For example, a course on accounts would be very essential for lawyers who may want to litigate, or who may want to do tax practice, or who may want to do GST related practice. Simply, even for example, in a case where damages have to be ascertained, we need people who are professionals in accounts. So some of our judges are in fact chartered accountants, even today in the Delhi High Court. So therefore, a basic understanding of accounting and its principles will go a long way in even your practice of law in a particular area of law. So this kind of, the next thing, for example, I can give you is an electronics engineer or a mechanical engineer doing patent law. These professionals are so sought after. For example, if you look at IIT Kharagpur, which gives a course, a 4-year course, law course, for students who finished sciences, any branch of science. So those are the persons who can take a patent agent exam, who can draft patents, who can become patent professionals, who can, create businesses which are related to patents and intellectual property. So without a science background, one cannot practice. It is very difficult to practice patent law now in India. or become a patent agent, which is not possible actually. You need a science degree. So therefore, the interdisciplinary nature of law studies has become more and more important now. And I think NorthCap University, with the three departments existing, i.e. engineering, management, and law, there is a big potential for you to create interdisciplinary law degrees and law courses. And even if it's a general law course, please have different subjects which you can offer to the students based upon their interest, wherein you can have people from your engineering department teaching law students, people from the management department teaching law students, or even vice versa, people from the law faculty teaching managers and engineers as to the areas of career opportunities that they have in their lives. So I think we should focus a lot on interdisciplinary teaching, and you could major and minor in different subjects. This is the manner in which internationally law is taught, and we should try and implement that within India insofar as legal education itself is concerned. Now I would move on to what are the options which law students have when they have, when they are doing law, and then what are the career choices that they have. The first and the foremost is, in my opinion, it is not sufficient to just do a simple law course. It is very, very important or essential, if I may say, to do at least a master's in some subject, because doing a master's always gives a person a lot of maturity, especially if you're a 5-year law student without a basic grounding in either of like any other subject. If you've chosen law directly, then it always helps to do a master's, whether in India or abroad, because it will make sure that you are able to broaden your vision. You get the requisite experience. You could always choose to do your master's after working for a couple of years. This is one of the biggest questions that law students ask me. Should we do LLM first, or should we do the LLM after a couple of years? There are both options which are good. Some people want to finish education straight away and then go into litigation. Though those people who wish to do litigation, they may want to do a straight away LLM. And those who wish to do non-litigation and practice in other, do your law in other areas of vocations and, like academics, etc. You could do an LLM even later, teach for a couple of years and then do an LLM in a course which you like. But either way, I do think that getting a second degree in law is always useful, though it's not always essential. A large number of lawyers practice immediately after their LLB, and they are very, very successful. So it depends on your personal situation, financial situation. If you have the option of doing an LLM, you try and do it. And what are the kind of career options that you have? When we graduated from law, we only knew 2 or 3 things, at least in my generation. For example, when I finished in my 5th year of law, I was interviewed by Hindustan Lever as a management trainee in their legal department, and I got into their company as a legal manager. But when I told them that I want to pursue my LLM in Cambridge because I got admission there, they said, okay, we'll wait for you. And so they waited till they held my position. I was able to join them for a couple of days, but then I got the option of moving to Delhi and practicing in intellectual property, which is what I chose. So at that time, there were very few options available. Basically, we could go into government jobs, or for example, take exams like the IAS or other civil service exams, revenue services, etc. Or we could do corporate law or litigation, or we could join a company as a legal manager or academics. These were very 5 or 6, main options that were available. But I do think that now the options and career progression charts for lawyers has increased a lot, and there are varied kind of careers which you can look at. Apart from corporate and litigation and academics, etc., you can, of course, join judicial services. Immediately after passing law, there is the entry-level judicial service exam which you can give, for which you can also study. And across the country, there are services which are, the states announce these judicial service exams. So, during your law studies, if you belong to a particular native place, it makes a lot of sense to learn a regional language to learn reading and writing of a regional language, because in some of the judicial service examinations, the knowledge of the local language is essential, because a large number of documents in those states would be in the local language. For example, in Karnataka, it's in Kannada, in UP, in Hindi, in Maharashtra, it could be Marathi, Gujarati. So whichever part of the country you are from or you want to apply for a judicial service, you can increase your knowledge by mastering that particular regional language. If you are interested in joining, for example, an international institution like any UN related body or any other international organization within India also, it would be very helpful if you could learn a foreign language. So those institutions require you to learn, along with English, the knowledge of English, you can know either French, Spanish, German, any other. There are certain subjects you can learn. Just give me a minute, please. Apologies, it was a call I had to take. I'm sorry. Yes. So I was saying that, can someone remind me, what was I saying?
You're talking about the international careers and the importance of
languages, yes. So learning an international language or a local regional language would be a very big asset which you will have if you study law and start studying it simultaneously. It will really help you. And this is something which most people are not aware. So I thought I must tell you about this. So judicial services is one option. Legal journalism is another option, which a large number of lawyers are getting employment in legal, in journalistic, websites, newspapers, magazines. Almost all the publishing industry, etc., is looking for professionals who have journalistic capabilities. So you could also, simultaneously pursue your writing skills and other kind of courses which could help you writing in general. And one very important thing that I would say as a lawyer is reading of newspapers. It is absolutely essential. The younger generation reads only online news. Even my children read online news. I keep telling them that it's important to read a newspaper. Please, the old system of reading newspapers in the morning while you have breakfast is an excellent habit which you should inculcate as law students, because a large number of articles and editorials, etc., which come in the newspaper and do not appear in online platforms. And in any event, since you have to get used to the manner in which you read quickly and interpret and understand and imbibe, it's always good to read from the print medium. And, lawyers, some of the senior advocates whom I briefed, you'll be surprised if, for example, as a briefing counsel, I gave a judgment to a senior counsel. They would literally, their eyes would be like scanners. We have to be like scanners. You should be able to know which are the key words to pick up in a particular page. You should be able to understand. Quick reading is part of a lawyer's very big asset. So you should be able to, read quickly. So please inculcate the habit of reading, and not merely from electronic platforms, but from print medium. It is very important. Read magazines, read newspapers. Spending that half an hour or 1 hour in the morning reading the newspaper along with your tea and coffee or with your breakfast will go a long way in making sure that you turn out to be a very good legal professional. Another thing I've understood is that when you're a lawyer, and suppose you have a particular client whom you're rendering your service to, in general, to read about those companies or their businesses, for example, in an Economic Times or a Business Standard newspaper or any other business newspaper, is absolutely essential, because when you're representing a client, to know the difficulties or the problems or the good things that are happening with that particular client makes you a more effective lawyer when you're appearing in court or when you're having a meeting with the client. Because suppose it's a suit for recovery. I'm just saying something very, very, very fundamental to you. Suppose it's a suit for recovery where you filed a suit for 1 crore rupees for your client. And you know that there is an insolvency petition pending against your client. You just read in the newspaper. The client may not have told you they are going through difficulties. And you read in the newspaper that an insolvency petition has been filed against that client. When you represent that case in the court, you will be able to say, see, it is because of these customers who are not paying us that we've been put into insolvency. Right? Or when the client comes to meet you, you'll be able to say, okay, hope you're able to, get over your insolvency problems, your liquidity problems. So the client then feels that you do care about them and care about their interests. The focus should not be simply on that particular case which you're doing. So these are very, very small lifestyle changes which you need to make in terms of reading the newspaper, in terms of having your general knowledge, increasing your general awareness, and that will be very, very important in your practice of law. So legal journalism is a very important course, very important career option. Then you can also apply to be law researchers in district courts, with judges, in the high courts, etc. So that is one career option which none of us had when we were young. You could be, if you're an engineering or a science student, you could become a patent agent. You can give the patent agent exam and get employment in a law firm or a company which drafts patents. You could set up your own startup if you're a software engineer. You could develop software, for example, relating to searches, relating to data analytics of legal cases. Policy bodies like Vidhi, etc., who have all come up recently, they're all doing extremely well. They publish very good reports. So then, of course, you have the government jobs, the administrative services, etc., etc. You can do either, constitutional law, criminal law, IP law, family law, environmental law, cyber law, international law, etc. Any of these subjects you can specialize in. Tax law, company law, NCLT, because nowadays you can also, if you're an accountant person, you can become a resolution professional in the NCLT. You can help companies which are undergoing insolvency and liquidation processes. You can also try and do, for example, policy analysis. You can try and work in the Army, Navy, Air Force. They have judge advocate generals there. You can be an in-house legal counsel in a company. You can facilitate various bodies, such as there are several international and Indian business organizations, for example, FICCI, CII, NBA, National News Broadcasters Association, Indian Broadcasting Federation, etc. These are all industry bodies which require lawyers. There are various tribunals which employ lawyers as assistants. So the career options are never ending, according to me, for lawyers nowadays. And you can also build, for example, software programmers can build AI tools, which could be used for doing very simple cases such as bails, negotiable instruments, etc. So there is a lot of career opportunities now in law. And you will be surprised when you go out of being a lawyer. You should be very aware of where all you can go, and you can focus your internships accordingly. I remember there are students who have come up to me while they start their legal course, and they say, okay, we want to make a proper chart, ma'am. First year, we do these 3 internships. Second year, these 3 internships. They make a proper chart and they focus on how we are going to ensure that we get the maximum exposure during our law studies so that we can decide on what to do when we finish our law. So I think this is the kind of talk I wanted to have with you as lawyers, because as law students, because a lot of girls, I mean, I would like to specifically speak to girls, for example, for a couple of minutes. You know, law was not considered as a very good career for girls to pursue. But I must tell you that in the last 4.5 years that I've been as judge, for a couple of years, I was also in the committee dealing with the judicial service and the higher judicial service examinations. You will be surprised that more than 60-70% of toppers in most law colleges are girls. And in the judicial service itself in Delhi, 55 to 60% at the entry-level judiciary is now being taken away by girls. So girls are having a field day in law as of today, though there are so many articles which keep coming up saying, in the higher judiciary, the numbers can increase. I do think that it is organically increasing. In the next 10 to 20 years, we will see more women, hopefully in the higher judiciary as well. But there is one thing that I want to say for lawyers and for law pursuing girls. There is still kind of a social taboo for girls who litigate in courts. I know of juniors of mine who've actually given up law because their parents feel that they may not find a proper match when they want to get married. So slowly, I think that that position is changing. Even if girls choose to be housemakers and do not want to practice law, I can tell you that a girl who studied law is much more aware of how to deal with problems in life. And she will be a much bigger support in the family as a whole than, than a non-lawyer, for example. I'm not saying non-lawyers are not good, but I'm just saying studying law should not be seen as a disadvantage for girls. There are a large number of litigating lawyers who have now become women senior advocates, women Supreme Court judges, women High Court judges. So law is no longer a taboo for women. So I would encourage women to also do law, because there are lots of career options for you as well. And don't think you've chosen a wrong career if you're doing law. I think with this, I would say that I would like to wish all the students the very best in their study of law. And I think we can take about 15 minutes of questions.
Thank you very much, Justice Singh, for an eye-opening session. Actually, listening to you, we all got a feeling that this is a sunrise field, and the sun is going to rise for quite some time.
That's true. Actually,
as the society continues to grow.
Yes.
So, let me begin by asking one question before we turn it to the audience, because I see there are a number of questions coming from audience. Is litigation still the queen of legal profession, or is it much more secular now?
Litigation still what did you say? Sorry?
The queen of profession, in the sense, is it still the most attractive part of legal profession, or?
I would say that litigation is to law what surgery is to medicine.
Okay.
Because litigation does have a lot of glamour. Litigation does have your adrenaline flowing when you get into a court and come out with an order, when you've argued well in front of a full court. I mean, we are mixing those experiences now during the virtual courts. But I must say that litigation gives a lot of satisfaction for lawyers. And I wouldn't say that others are not equally satisfying. But yes, litigation is one of the biggest career options for lawyers. And at the end of the day, it's the courts which dispense justice, and therefore I do think that law in courts is very different from law outside courts.
Sure. Let's take some questions from our students. Shadab wants to know, he's a student pursuing engineering, doesn't know much about law, but how can he make sure that he's aware of law so that he doesn't get bullied on social media or things like that?
Okay. So, as I said, a little bit of interdisciplinary teaching will really help even at universities like yours. So, doing one or two sessions on cybercrime, doing a couple of sessions on what are the career options for engineers in law, those will really help for engineers, because normally the traditional engineering career options, everyone is aware of those. But they are not aware of the fact that, if you do an engineering course with a law course, simultaneously write a patent agent exam, you could actually have a very big career option of drafting of patents, being a patent litigator in the High Court, being a patent drafter, patent prosecutor. You could be a patent expert who can be called as a witness in a court. So this entire regime is changing for engineers. They have a lot of career options in law. So you could maybe have a couple of sessions on cybercrime. You could have a couple of sessions on patent law and IP law in general for engineers. It will really help. And there are certain courses like the IIT Kharagpur course, which is meant especially for engineers who want to do law. So I think there should be more awareness of these courses, so that they have the full, the a la carte menu in front of them to be able to decide what is the meal they want to have.
And I might add that at NCU, we do have a system of open electives,
Okay.
which actually leaves the choice of courses in the hands of students. And the students can take courses across the schools.
Okay, this is very good. I'm very glad. Like I think a law student doing an accounts course is very useful, because the maximum practice nowadays, if you see, is in the NCLT and in the under the insolvency bankruptcy code, tax laws, GST laws, and for that you need a grounding in accounts. It will really help. And in your management courses, if you have an accounting course, I think there should be a cross-disciplinary course which you can do.
We do have fairly involved accounting courses.
Yes.
Here's a question from Shrikant. After a 5-year law, and to your point during the lecture, I do want to mention that our degrees are indeed 5-year law degrees.
Okay.
BBA, LLB.
Okay.
So he wants to know, what is it a better option to go for judiciary services or civil services?
I have a bias over here. See, civil service, you are connected to the citizens and you can render a lot of service on the ground, as I would say, like as a district collector or as a, in the administrative part of the government. But in the judicial service, the civil servants are actually answerable to the judiciary. So that gives you the answer. And even in the judicial service, you can be like a magistrate at the level of the districts and in the district courts, etc. So I do think that it depends on what is your own inclination. Both are extremely good options. And after doing law, the law subjects in the civil services exams are a very good option to write an exam on. And you can study easily. If you've done law, it's easier for you to pass either of these exams, actually.
Nikki wants to know whether the COVID pandemic has complicated the career options for young lawyers stepping into the workforce.
It has. I think in litigation, it has really changed a little bit, because even lawyers with 4 to 5 years of experience are finding it difficult to get new clients, because old matters are not being taken up in most courts. But I think this is a transition phase. This is just a temporary phase. Slowly the courts are opening up. At least you won't need to be worried, because you're still in law, so you'll be studying. So I think the pandemic will be long over before you get to do it. It's okay.
Dave's question, I think you did touch upon that during your talk. What he's saying is, when should we start preparing for judiciary? What are the tips and aspects that we need to remind?
You will need to have a focus if you want to do, at least from your 3rd year, I would say. If you're a 5-year law student, minimum from your 3rd year, you should start looking at the subjects, because I do believe that in the 5-year course, from the 3rd year, all the core subjects are taught. isn't it? In law. So I think you should start taking it seriously from your third year.
Vishakha, as an educator, wants to know how can we best inculcate entrepreneurial skills in the law students?
See, lawyers are fundamentally entrepreneurs because when we open our litigation offices, small chambers, we are doing our own business in a way. But the entrepreneurial skills in lawyers is increasing with time. For example, I'm aware of startups which have now been set up in the area of law. They collect data from the National Judicial Data Grid, publish reports. They do work on the policy side. They give assistance to lawyers on technical aspects such as engineering, chemistry. They create software, for example, for notarization, for attestation of affidavits. They create templates for drafting planes, making software. So entrepreneurial skills in law is very upcoming. And there is a effort within the court system also to have managers appointed in various courts to manage and administer courts, because judges do their judicial function, and there are several courts in the country, including high courts, where we have professional managers appointed to administer the courts. So there is a lot of scope in managerial plus law related courses as well.
Another question from Gaurangi Kaushik is, if we do well in our internships and do well in certain legal subjects, does that point to our proficiency in that field? Should we basically, what she's asking is, should we choose a field of work where we have scored better?
In terms of marks itself, I would not do that. But yes, on the basis of experience and internships, what you learn, sometimes when you go to a court, some students have come and told me, ma'am, there's a lot of time which is wasted. I don't want to waste waiting for matters. But some students feel while waiting, we are learning. So we are very happy being in courts. Or while waiting in the court lobby, we got a new client. So we are happy waiting in courts. So everything depends on what is your own experience and expertise and your inclination. You can base your decision on the basis of your experience during internships and your inclination to a subject. For example, when I studied law, I wasn't inclined towards criminal law. Though as a judge, I have to deal with criminal cases. I didn't want to practice criminal law. But that doesn't make... Some people are happy to do criminal law. Some people are happy to do family law. So it depends on your inclination and your own liking as to what you have.
Vidarth is curious, what made you switch from being a lawyer to a judge?
High court judgeship is something which is offered to very few people, number one. Number two, though I had a successful law practice, it was more than 25 years since I had practiced. And I felt that it's time to give back to society. And I also wanted to increase my own learning curve, because I did do corporate commercial IPR practice when I was a lawyer. And I wanted to increase my learning in different subjects and dispense justice. And that's the reason I chose to be a judge.
Shiksha wants to know, I think you touched upon that during the talk, but maybe a repetition may not hurt. She wants to know what are the reasons for lack of women judges in judiciary at all levels.
Yes, I just told you, Shiksha, that that impression is wrong. At the civil court level, I mean at the entry level and at the district judge level, the numbers are very, very high as of today. And it's just a question of the next 5-10 years, you'll see many women come up in the higher and even till the Supreme Court. That is what I feel, because when you see the entry level, it's almost 60% is women now. So I think it's what is good about the fact that it's happening on merit, and it's not happening due to any positive reservation or something like that. So it's happening organically. That means we have been able to enable education of girls. We've been able to, as a society and as a country, empower girls to do law and then to come into judicial service, which I think is the most satisfying thing when I see as a judge. It is so beautiful to see so many young girls coming into the judiciary.
Arushi has an interesting question. She asks, it is often argued that the difference between interpretation and construction is now only limited to the academic realm. Do you think that is true? Or do the judges see a real and fundamental distinction between the art of interpretation and construction?
See, I think on a daily basis, when you look at various orders which are passed by courts, there is interpretation may not be required because law is very well settled in most of the areas. However, it is not very rarely, quite often, we do have cases where interpretation is required. So to answer your question, that may not be true. Interpretation of law is required at every level, despite us having developed such a rich jurisprudence over the last 75 years. Even to today, there are several issues where, which are not yet, which is uncharted territory. So there is interpretation happening every day. I don't think that that's true.
Dr. Pallavi has a question. Besides case studies and case law, what can bridge the gap between the classroom and a courtroom?
Being with a lawyer, sitting with a lawyer when he or she is meeting a client, dealing with your own family and friends. When everyone comes to know you're doing law, they'll come and say, "Ek will banana hai, kaise banana hai? Please help me." Don't have an inhibition that you can't do it. Learn how to look at a book, learn how to write it, learn how to draft it. Even if you take 1 month, 2 months to draft one will, it is worth it. So when people come up to you with, suppose your aunt may come and say, "Maine fridge kharida last month, lekin kharab ho gaya. Ab main kya karu?" Take those things as a challenge and help people out. Then you will realize that you will yourself learn various aspects of law. You can tell her, okay, you can file a consumer complaint. But yes, usse pehle, why don't you give a notice? So make a notice for her. Write an email to the company. Go on the website of the company and check their legal manager's email address. Write him an email. He or she may say, "Okay, we are sorry that this has happened. We will replace the part for you." And then you say, "Okay, we replace the part, but then it's still not working." Then they may say, "Okay, we'll replace the fridge." If not, then you'll have to file a consumer complaint, right? So that will make you read the Consumer Protection Act. That will make you understand whether you need to go to the district consumer commission, state consumer commission, which forum should you go. So these small queries that come up within your own social circle is a process of learning for you.
I think we still have a couple of minutes, so I'll conclude with maybe 1 or 2 questions more. Muskan wants to know if there is any specific set of skills, 1 or 2, which are important for choosing judiciary as a career option.
If you have patience, that is the first thing that you need as a judicial, as a court. You should be able to listen to what the lawyers are saying. A lot of times they may or may not be making any sense, but you have to still listen because the way of presentation of lawyers is very different. At the High Court level, it's very different. But at district court level, you should be able to, have a lot of patience. You should have a lot of compassion and empathy to the litigant. If the lawyer makes a mistake, don't make the litigant suffer. You should go beyond the lawyer and behind the lawyer. Give an opportunity. And thirdly, you should be able to understand how do I dispense justice in this case so that the litigant is not stuck forever in appeals after appeals. Normally in a partition suit, for example, let me say, a suit is filed, 2 brothers, the father passed away recently, there is 1 property. 1 brother living in Delhi, 1 brother living in, let me say, Bhopal. Okay, a partition suit is filed. Instead of taking the whole thing to its logical conclusion after 2 or 3 years, when the notice is issued, you say, tell the other brother to join the proceedings. He may be an elder brother. He may say, "Look, I'm living in Bhopal. I may not want to live here permanently." There could be some kind of a settlement that can happen initially itself. So you should be a very practical person. Don't be a theoretical person. Be practical, be compassionate, be empathetic, and look at the litigant behind every lawyer and every case. I think if you have these qualities, you can become a good judge.
I think don't forget the human being behind everything.
Correct.
It probably best sums it all.
Yes.
Justice Singh, thank you very much for a very, very enlightening session. I'm tempted to go and learn law myself now. As your prescription for being multidisciplinary. But I think at the end, coming at the end of a very busy day for you, you spent a full hour with us, took all the questions and made it so lively. All credit to you, ma'am.
Thank
And
you.
on behalf of the university, on behalf of all of us, let me thank you wholeheartedly. And let me hope that when the COVID pandemic is over, we're able to receive you in person and have you speak to our students in person.
Thank you so much, Professor. And you've been such a great moderator, and it's given such a personal touch to the whole event today. Thank you very much, and all the very best to all the students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, dear students, with that, we close the event now.